Delighted to be able to introduce the people who made the post. Please help me welcome cinematographer Janusz Kaminski. Production designer Rick Carter. Screenwriter Josh Singer. Screenwriter Liz Hanna. Actor Tom Hanks. Meryl Streep. And the director of the movie, Steven Spielberg. Steven, you made this movie very quickly. You just got the script in your hands in February. You were shooting in June. What was the urgency?
What was the urgency? Well, I was really depressed about the way things were happening in the world and the country, and Liz Hanna, 31 years old, writes a spec script, gets it to Amy Pascal, who sends it to me, and suddenly my entire outlook on the future brightened overnight. It was there on paper, and I just felt that there was an urgency to reflect 1971 and 2017, because it was very terrifyingly similar.
Liz, Katharine Graham has a wonderful memoir, but it's very long. It follows her sort of amazing life. How did you choose this moment to focus on?
I think for me, this was her coming of age story, and that's what I connected to. I think often the coming of age story happens when you're 17, and fingers crossed none of us actually became the person we were going to be when we were 17 years old. But there's something very relatable to a woman finding her voice, to a woman standing in a room of men and being out-talked, overlooked, and her having to make that decision, and not only make the decision for her family, for her company, but for herself, that she was now going to stand on her own 2 feet. And that felt, for me, very relevant and very something that I just personally connected to, and so that's where it started.
Meryl, there's a scene early in the movie where Katharine Graham is hosting a dinner party, and the conversation turns to like Nixon's China policy or something, and the women excuse themselves. The implication, I guess, being they wouldn't be interested, or they shouldn't be. How do you think the era in which Katharine Graham lived shaped her as a leader, and how did it shape the way you performed her?
You know, that was customary in certain circles of powerful people. That there's a scene just like it in the film I made about Margaret Thatcher. Same thing happened habitually, that when people would have a dinner party and when the important topics came up, the women would excuse themselves and go talk about handbags or whatever, in Margaret Thatcher's case, I guess. But yeah, that's the way it was. And in fact, this is based on a real thing that happened. We didn't put it in the film ultimately, but she went to a dinner at Joe Alsop's house, who was a famous columnist and very well connected across the aisle with both very powerful people. And that moment came up when the women were supposed to leave. And she went to Joe and she said, you know, I think I'm going to go home now because I don't really want to do that. And he said, how can you do that? He was very offended, and she just said, I'm going to leave. And she went home, and that ended the practice in Washington. The word traveled around the city and they stopped doing it. The women got to stay. So that was a very tiny revolt that she made then. But how did it